you get the electrical impulse. The electrical impulse releases the calcium, and the release of the calcium causes the contraction. The electrical impulse releases the calcium, and the release of the calcium causes the muscle to contract. Remember that compared to cardiac muscle, the skeletal muscle action potential is extremely short. The skeletal muscle action potential is extremely short. And that's why you can have multiple action potentials. The skeletal muscle action potential is extremely short. And that's why you can have multiple action potentials. Now, the frequency of the action potentials means that you release more and more and more calcium. That's because, you see, in the cardiac muscle, it's like all or none. Contract, no contract. Contract, no contract. But why is it that by your conscious effort, you can make a more and more and more and more and more effort? Because you can give more and more and more neural stimulation, which releases more and more calcium, which engages more and more and more of the myocytes. That's why this is such an important event, because you can actually have increased activity based on your ability to have more neural stimulation, more calcium released, and more actin myosin filaments engaged. That's why more action potentials gets more calcium and a greater magnitude. Now, cardiac muscle will not do that. Cardiac muscle is all or none. Complete tetanus means that everything is bound. Continuous cycling of all the available cross bridges. So, tetanus means that everything is engaged. Tetanus means that all the actin myosin sites are filled and all the myocytes are engaged. That is tetanus. Everything is engaged. Now, you might say, well, what is the difference between complete tetanus and rigor mortis? Not very much, actually. Complete tetanus is tons of calcium and all the actin and myosin filaments are engaged. Rigor mortis is you're dead and there's no ATP and your myosin doesn't detach. Tons of calcium and everything is engaged, or no ATP and it doesn't detach, comes out to being the same thing. Tons of calcium and everything is engaged, no ATP and it doesn't detach, is kind of the same. Very similar. Now, the action potential shoots up. The action potential shoots up, and there's a delay to the muscle twitch. Remember what we said about absolute refractory period? The absolute refractory period means when you're already depolarized, you can't do any more stimulation. See, this absolute refractory period has to do with the fact that the normal minus 70 membrane potential is already so positive that you can't make it go positive again. It's already positive. It's already depolarized. It's a refractory period, not because it's depolarized and is coming back and is sitting around smoking a cigarette and waiting. It is refractory because it's already happening. It's refractory because it's already depolarized. You can't get it to depolarize when it's already depolarized. You can't get it to depolarize when it's already depolarized. You can't get it to depolarize when it's already depolarized. And that's why it's absolute refractory, because it's already depolarized. Relative refractory period, you'll see it's on its way down. Relative refractory period, you'll see it's on its way back down to normal. And that's why it's relative. It means what's the earliest possible time at which a new stimulus can initiate an action. That's what relative refractory period is. It's the earliest time that you can have a new stimulus. That's the relative refractory period. It's the earliest time at which you can have a new stimulus. That's the relative refractory period. Absolute, you can't have a new depolarization when you're already depolarized. Relative refractory is you can get a new depolarization because you're on your way to normal. You have survived. It's not a bad chapter. It's a nice idea. Isn't it a beautiful system? It's a beautiful system to say that your whole body has this beautiful thing with T tubules and a sarcoplasmic reticulum pouring calcium through the T tubules, which put calcium into the muscles. The calcium hits troponin, pulls the troponin and the tropomyosin out of the way. The myosin head binds and ratchets your muscles along. It's nice. I like it.